Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for another fascinating journey into the past?
Always.
Today, we're going to decode a time when information truly was power, World War II. Now, you've probably heard about Alan Turing, right?
Oh, yeah. The Enigma machine, Bletchley Park, all that.
Right. But those stories, fascinating as they are just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to go deeper, decode the hidden history of information theory, and how it all ties back to wartime code breaking.
You know, it's incredible to think that the urgency of war, the pressure cooker of it all, may have inadvertently sparked the information age.
That's what we're going to uncover today, and we'll meet some brilliant minds along the way. Bill Tutte, who cracked codes even more complex than the Enigma.
And Vannevar Bush, who dreamt up something eerily similar to hyperlinks long before the internet even existed.
So buckle up, deep divers. Our journey starts at Bletchley Park, a top-secret hub in England.
A place buzzing with brilliant minds.
Racing against time to decipher German communications. Lives hung in the balance. It was high-stakes stuff. And we all know about the Enigma machine.
Right.
But there is another, even more challenging cipher to crack.
The Enigma was mainly used for tactical communication out in the field. But for the big picture, the strategic messages, the Germans used the Lorenz machine.
Ah, the Lorenz.
Imagine a machine with 12 wheels, each with a unique arrangement of pins, over 500 of them.
Wow.
It had a mind-boggling number of possible starting positions.
How many are we talking?
1.6 quadrillion.
You're kidding.
To put that in perspective, it would take a modern supercomputer years to just brute force a Lorenz cipher. The Enigma, compared to this, was like a child's toy.
Wow, no wonder cracking this code seemed impossible. So who was the mastermind who actually pulled it off?
That would be Bill Tutte, a young mathematician. What he achieved is considered by many to be one of the greatest intellectual feats of the war.
He cracked the Lorenz.
We did. And get this, without ever even laying eyes on the machine itself. Imagine trying to solve a complex puzzle without even knowing what the pieces look like.
It's almost unimaginable. That's incredible. How did he even begin to approach such a challenge? This Bill Tutte must have been some kind of genius.
He was us. Tutte's work, it allowed the Allies to decrypt over 63 million characters of top-secret German messages.
63 million.
That's a staggering amount of information, equivalent to about 20 Bibles.
Wow.
This intelligence proved absolutely vital, especially for the success of D-Day and numerous other critical operations.
So this one man, working in secrecy, had a huge impact on the course of the war. What's even more fascinating is how Tutte's pre-war passion, a puzzle called Squaring the Square, played a role in this remarkable achievement. It sounds almost too good to be true, like something straight out of a movie.
It really does. Squaring the square was a geometrical puzzle, dissecting a square into smaller squares, each with a unique side length.
Okay.
This puzzle, you see, led Tutte and his friends to discover a link between geometric shapes and electrical circuits. They were stumbling upon early principles of graph theory, a field that would become essential in understanding those complex relationships, cracking complex systems like, you guessed it, the Lorenz cipher.
So this puzzle, which seems so unrelated to code breaking, actually held the key to a major breakthrough.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how seemingly unrelated fields can intersect in the most unexpected ways.
Absolutely. But I'm curious about something. They cracked the code, they're getting all these messages. How did they handle all that information? I mean, once the messages were decrypted, that's just the first step, right?
That's a great question. Decrypting the messages was just the beginning. The real challenge was making sense of the deluge of intelligence they were receiving. Imagine sifting through mountains of data, trying to extract meaningful insights from what seemed like a sea of random messages.
It sounds overwhelming. How did they even begin to make sense of it all?
They developed a process called log reading. Trained personnel, mostly women, known as wrens, meticulously collected metadata about each message. They noted things like timestamps, call signs, message origins, anything that could help establish patterns and connections.
It's like piecing together a giant jigsaw puzzle. Each piece represents a tiny bit of information.
Exactly.
You could almost picture a scene straight out of a war film. A dimly lit room filled with maps, the wrens connecting pins with threads, representing the flow of communication between German units.
Those intricate webs of thread. Essentially visual representations of graphs.
Graphs, yeah.
Showcasing the power of graph theory to make sense of complex relationships.
It's not that different from how we visualize data today, is it?
Not at all.
Using charts and graphs to understand patterns and trends.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
The need to organize, analyze, and extract meaning from vast quantities of data. It's a challenge that has persisted through history. It evolves alongside technology.
It's amazing to think they were already grappling with information overload back then.
Yeah.
Using visual tools to make sense of vast amounts of data. It's almost like they were laying the groundwork for the information retrieval systems we use today. Search engines, databases, all those tools that help us find the needle in the haystack of digital information.
Precisely. And the urgency of war, it forced them to innovate, to develop methods that would later influence the way we handle information in our increasingly digital world.
This is also fascinating. It really highlights how a seemingly abstract mathematical concept like graph theory can have real-world implications, even in the heat of battle. But, with all this manual code breaking going on, did anyone think about automating the process? I mean, speed was of the essence, right?
You're absolutely right. The limitations of manual decryption, they became increasingly apparent as the war progressed. They needed a faster, more reliable way to crack these codes. And this is where we begin to see the very early stages of something revolutionary, the computer, or at least its predecessors.
Ah, so this is where the story starts to connect with the technology we use every day. I'm eager to learn how those early code-breaking machines evolved into the computers we know and love. Were these early machines anything like what we use today?
Well, not quite. The first attempted automation was the bomb machine, based on a Polish design. It was a complex electromechanical device, but it was still limited.
So it was a step in the right direction, but not quite the breakthrough they were hoping for. What happened next?
Then came the Heath Robinson machine, named after a cartoonist known for drawing these ridiculously complicated contraptions.
Oh.
It used a combination of electronics and mechanics to speed up the code breaking, but it was notoriously unreliable.
I love that they named it after a cartoonist. It seems like even in the midst of war, they managed to keep their sense of humor.
It's a testament to their resilience, their creativity. But the real game changer arrived with the Colossus machines. These were purpose-built to crack that Lorenz cipher, and they were far more advanced than anything that came before.
Oh.
They were programmable, using a system of plugs and wires, capable of performing Boolean and counting operations.
Key elements of modern computing.
Exactly.
So this is it then. Bletchley Park, the birthplace of the computer.
Well, it's not that straightforward. While the Colossus machines were revolutionary, they weren't quite computers in the modern sense.
Ooh.
You see, they lack the ability to store instructions electronically, what we call stored program code. Their programs were essentially hardwired, determined by the configuration of plugs and wires. It's more accurate to think of them as incredibly sophisticated calculators, tailored for a very specific task.
I see. So imagine giant rooms filled with these machines with wires and plugs everywhere, people scrambling to reconfigure them for different tasks. It must have been a chaotic yet exhilarating environment.
It was. And to guide the rewiring process, the engineers created menus.
Menus?
Yes, handwritten diagrams that mapped out the necessary connections.
Interesting.
And you know what? These menus actually reflected early principles of graph theory, illustrating the relationships between different components of the Colossus machines. It's as if they were intuitively applying the same concepts that Tutte used to crack the Lorenz cipher, even if they weren't consciously aware of it.
That's incredible. These menus, created out of necessity, were actually early expressions of a powerful mathematical concept.
Yes.
It makes you wonder how much ingenuity, how much innovation was hidden within those top secret walls. But let's talk about the people who operated these machines. What was it like to be a code breaker in those days?
It was a demanding job, requiring intense focus, attention to detail, a willingness to push the boundaries of what was possible.
It sounds like a perfect breeding ground for hackers. Manipulating complex systems with sometimes a limited understanding of their inner workings, constantly pushing the limits. That's the essence of hacking, isn't it?
You've hit upon a key point. There's a direct lineage from those Bletchley Park codebreakers, tinkering with plugs and wires, to the hackers of today who explore the intricacies of software and hardware. It's all about understanding how systems work, even if you don't have the complete picture.
This is all so mind-boggling. We've gone from solving abstract puzzles to cracking supposedly unbreakable codes, and now we're seeing the very beginnings of the computer age. It's like witnessing the birth of a new era, all thanks to the ingenuity and determination of those wartime pioneers. But where do we go from here? We've got the messages decrypted, the data analyzed, the machines humming. What happens next in this information revolution?
That's a great question. And it leads us to one of the most visionary figures of the time, Vannevar Bush. He was the head of U.S. wartime research. And like many others, he was wrestling with the problem of information overload. But what sets Bush apart is his vision for the future of information management.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did this Vannevar Bush envision? Was he thinking about computers, the internet, or something else entirely?
Well, he envisioned something remarkably similar to the internet decades before it came into existence. But to fully grasp his vision, we need to dive into his frustrations with traditional information storage.
All right, let's dive in. I'm ready to hear what this visionary had in mind. Last time we left off with Vannevar Bush grappling with information overload. He was trying to come up with a revolutionary way to access and connect information. And this was way back in 1945, long before the internet, as we know it, even existed.
Imagine that.
It's wild to think how these ideas were brewing during a time of such global upheaval.
It really speaks to that enduring power of human curiosity. Even amidst chaos, these brilliant minds, they were looking ahead, envisioning a future where information could be harnessed, shared in these new ways.
So let's unpack Bush's vision. What exactly was he proposing?
Bush, you see, he was deeply frustrated with traditional linear systems.
Like libraries.
Exactly. Libraries with their card catalogs, their rigid classification systems. He felt they were inadequate for capturing the true complexity of knowledge, how our minds actually connect ideas.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it.
Right.
Our thoughts, they don't flow in a straight line. We jump between ideas, make connections, go off on tangents. Traditional systems just weren't designed to accommodate that kind of nonlinear thinking.
You got it. And that's where Bush's vision of the Memex comes in.
The Memex.
He imagined this device that could store vast amounts of information. But more importantly, it would allow users to create trails of knowledge. Personalized trails.
Trails.
Yes, linking information together in ways that mirrored the associative nature of human thought.
It sounds like he was describing a personal, interconnected web of information. Was he basically predicting hyperlinks, the World Wide Web?
Essentially, yes. He even imagined a way to capture these trails of thought, creating a permanent record of how one idea led to another, much like we share links and articles online today. Bush's vision, it was incredibly prescient, anticipating so many features we take for granted in the digital age.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It's like he peered into the future and saw the potential of technology to transform how we think about, interact with information. It makes you wonder if the creators of the internet were directly inspired by Bush's ideas.
It's highly likely. Bush's essay, As We May Think, became incredibly influential within the computer science community.
Really?
It's considered a foundational text in information science, a major inspiration for hypertext systems.
Ah, hypertext.
Which, of course, paved the way for the World Wide Web.
It's amazing how one person's vision can have such a ripple effect, influencing decades of technological innovation. But while Bush's Memex was a brilliant concept, it was still a theoretical device. What about those actual code-breaking machines? Did they directly contribute to the development of computers as we know them today?
The relationship is more nuanced than a direct lineage. While machines like the Colossus were incredibly sophisticated for their time, remember they lacked a key element: stored program code. They couldn't electronically store and execute instructions. That limited their flexibility.
So they were powerful tools, but more like specialized calculators, designed for a very specific purpose.
A good analogy. But even though they weren't true computers in the modern sense, the Colossus machines demonstrated the potential of electronic computation.
Yeah.
They showed that machines could process information at incredible speeds, paving the way for more general-purpose computers.
It's fascinating how necessity often drives innovation. The pressure of war forced these brilliant minds to push the boundaries of what was technologically possible, and in doing so, they laid the foundation for a technological revolution. But this wasn't just about hardware, was it? Information theory as a field of study was taking shape during this era. Where does Claude Shannon fit into all of this?
Claude Shannon. He's considered the father of information theory. His work is crucial to understanding how we transmit and process information digitally.
Okay.
Back in 1948, he published this groundbreaking paper,
What was it called?
A Mathematical Theory of Communication. Essentially, it laid out the blueprint for the digital age.
So Shannon's work, was that the theoretical foundation upon which all of this digital innovation was built?
Precisely. Shannon's key insight was that information could be quantified, measured.
Measured.
Yes. He developed a way to measure the amount of information in a message, regardless of its content. This led to the concept of bits, Bits
Yeah.
binary, digits, the smallest units of information. This was revolutionary.
It's like he cracked the code of information itself,
Exactly.
created a framework for how we store, transmit, and process data in the digital world. And remember earlier, we talked about Turing's initial skepticism towards Shannon's ideas. It's interesting to consider how those different perspectives might have actually shaped the development of information theory.
Absolutely. Turing, with his focus on practical code breaking, he likely saw the limitations of Shannon's purely theoretical approach.
Right.
But perhaps that tension, that push and pull between theory and practice, it was a catalyst for innovation, forced them to refine their ideas, consider new possibilities.
It's a great example of how collaboration, even when it involves disagreement, can spark new breakthroughs. But amidst all these technological leaps, it's important to remember the human element. What happened to these brilliant minds after the war? Did they continue to shape the technological landscape?
Their stories took very different paths. Turing, as we know, faced persecution for his homosexuality, met a tragic end.
Yeah.
His contributions, though significant, remained largely hidden because of the secrecy surrounding wartime activities. It wasn't until decades later that his full impact on computer science, artificial intelligence, was truly recognized.
It's a heartbreaking reminder that societal prejudices can stifle even the brightest minds. It makes you wonder how much potential has been lost throughout history because of intolerance and discrimination. But what about Shannon and Bush? Did they continue to push the boundaries of information technology?
Both men went on to have remarkable careers. Shannon continued his work at Bell Labs, making groundbreaking contributions to cryptography, artificial intelligence, even computer chess. He was a true polymath, always exploring new ideas, pushing the limits of human knowledge.
It sounds like he was a true pioneer, always on the cutting edge.
He was. And Vannevar Bush, he continued to be influential in the world of science and technology. He served as an advisor to several U.S. presidents, advocated for increased government funding for research. His vision of the MEMX, though never fully realized, it continued to inspire generations of computer scientists and engineers.
It's incredible to think how these individuals, shaped by their wartime experiences, went on to leave such a lasting mark on the world. But their stories also raise some important questions, don't they, about the nature of innovation. Was the rapid progress we saw in information technology during and after the war, was that purely a consequence of necessity, or were there other factors at play?
That's a complex question. There's no easy answer. The urgency of war, it definitely created a unique environment. It fostered collaboration, risk-taking, a willingness to challenge conventional thinking. But you also can't discount the role of individual brilliance, the power of human curiosity, that relentless pursuit of knowledge. These things drive innovation in any era.
It's a reminder that innovation isn't always linear. Those breakthroughs, they can emerge from the most unexpected places. But as we've seen, these advancements often come with a shadow side. We've talked about the incredible potential of information technology, but there's a darker side to this story, isn't there?
You're right. The same technologies that can liberate information, empower individuals, they can also be used for surveillance, for control, and even manipulation. And as we've seen throughout history, those in power, they often exploit these tools to maintain their grip on society.
It's a double-edged sword. We saw how information played a crucial role in defeating fascism during the war. But it can also be used to spread propaganda, so discord, undermine democracy.
Precisely. And as technology keeps evolving at this exponential pace, these ethical dilemmas, they only become more complex. We're now grappling with issues like data privacy, algorithmic bias, the spread of misinformation on a scale that was unimaginable just a few decades ago.
It's a lot to consider.
It is.
We're living in a world where information is both a powerful tool and a potential weapon. And as we navigate this new landscape, it's more important than ever to be mindful of the ethical implications of these technologies, to ensure that they're used responsibly. But, I'm curious, is there more to this story? Were there other hidden figures, covert operations that maybe played a role in shaping the information age?
That's where things get really interesting. As we delve deeper into this history, we start to uncover these tantalizing hints
Of what?
of hidden agendas, covert operations that might have steered the development of information technology.
Okay, now you've really got me curious. What kind of secrets are we talking about? Were there other players in this game that we haven't even discussed yet?
There's a lot more to uncover, and some of it might surprise you. But to delve into those secrets, we need to switch gears a little. Enter a realm where fact and speculation intertwine. Are you ready to explore the shadows of the information age?
Absolutely. I'm all ears. Let's unlock the vault and see what secrets lie within. We started this deep dive in the code-breaking hubs of World War II. Now we're here exploring the shadowy side of the information age. It's a bit of a historical spy thriller, isn't it?
You know, it's crucial to remember that a lot of what happened during the war, it stayed classified for decades. We're just now starting to piece the full story together. And there are still so many missing pieces.
That's what makes us all so intriguing. Like we're historical detectives, piecing together fragments of evidence, trying to uncover a hidden truth. So what are some of those tantalizing clues that hint at a deeper story here? A story where maybe the development of information technology was actually steered by forces hidden from public view?
One of the most intriguing things is the sheer level of secrecy surrounding these wartime innovations. Even basic information about projects like Colossus, it remained classified for decades after the war ended.
I guess it makes sense. Protecting national security, maintaining that technological edge over adversaries, those were top priorities. But this secrecy also created a kind of information vacuum, didn't it?
Absolutely. A void where speculation could thrive.
Right.
And into that void, you see, stepped all sorts of theories.
Oh.
Some more plausible than others. There are historians who believe that the true impact of wartime code breaking on computers, on information theory, it was deliberately downplayed.
Really?
Perhaps to protect sensitive intelligence sources or maintain a strategic advantage during the Cold War.
So it's possible that the full story of these innovations, it's even more groundbreaking than we realize, but some of the key details, they're still hidden.
It's definitely possible. And it raises these fascinating questions.
Yeah, like what?
Like, what if these innovations had been shared more openly? Would the trajectory of technology have been different? Would we have seen an even faster acceleration of progress in AI, computer science? Or maybe the internet as we know it, it would have evolved along a completely different path.
Interesting.
Perhaps with a greater emphasis on privacy and security from the very start.
It's like one of those alternate history scenarios.
Exactly.
One single event creates a ripple effect that changes the course of history. But this isn't just about technological progress, is it? There are ethical dimensions to all of this, too.
Absolutely. You know, the same technologies that can be used to liberate information, to empower individuals, they can also be used for surveillance, for control, for manipulation. And history shows us time and again that those in power, they often exploit these tools to maintain their grip.
It's that double-edged sword. We saw how information played a crucial role in defeating fascism during the war. But it can also be used to spread propaganda, to sow discord, to undermine democracy itself.
Precisely. And as technology keeps evolving at this breakneck speed, these ethical dilemmas are only going to become more complex.
Right.
Data privacy, algorithmic bias, the spread of misinformation. We're facing these issues on a scale that was unimaginable just a few decades ago.
That's a lot to think about.
It is.
We're living in a world where information is both this incredible tool and a potential weapon. And as we move forward, it's crucial to be aware of the ethical implications of these technologies to make sure they are used responsibly for good.
I completely agree.
Well, this deep dive has been quite a journey. We've gone from secret code-breaking labs to the ethical complexities of the digital age.
It has.
We've explored the interconnectedness of ideas, the power of human ingenuity, that constant tension between technological advancement and societal values.
It's been fascinating.
It really has. And for our listeners out there, stay curious, keep exploring, never stop questioning the narratives we're told. Until next time.